This is Mile High.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right, it is not. It is a receiver of thought. Because love is my first technique.
It's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, hailing from an altitude of 5,280 feet in Boulder, Colorado, and I am grateful to have you as part of our audience. And if you are listening to this, whether it be iTunes or YouTube or Stitcher or Facebook, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We have some incredible episodes coming up. And of course, mark your calendar in stone if you have not already registered for Mile High, August 16th to 19th, 2018. It is going to be our biggest and best event yet. Each year we raise the bar to provide a quality, content-rich program for people. And this is going to be a quality, content-rich podcast. I am uber excited about this episode and for you to get to know Dr. Brookh Lyons. She has her Bachelor of Science and received her chiropractic degree from Palmer from 2001. She's earned diplomas in the health industry, trained as a personal coaching. She is part of a chiropractic family and married to a chiropractor. And she's really a visionary and thought leader and has an incredible book that just really enticed me when I saw it with the envelope system, and this is going to be so fun. Welcome to the Mile High podcast, Dr. Brookh Lyons.
Well, thank you very much. What an honor to be here. It's fun to talk to other chiropractors.
Of course, it always is. And one of the things that I really got me excited as we're going to dive deep into learning about you and learning about your book is this, that so often, especially when you talk about chiropractors, we're so focused on healing others and helping others heal and facilitating healing. And what's so important that is to heal yourself first and make sure you are the best version of you and your family. And so often people neglect that. And this topic matter, I feel, really lends itself to that.
Absolutely. And this is exactly how I figured out. Part of the steps that led me towards writing this book is being a chiropractor, because we know that women, I really exclusively saw children and babies. So who brings them in usually are these mommies, and they were just unable to very often make these simple decisions. We know as chiropractors sometimes it gets frustrating because it's so simple, it's right in front of us, and we make it so complicated as human beings. And so, when my friend was dying and I needed to find a way to connect him, I just could take all that experience, having seen all these patients and knowing that I too needed to heal myself so that I can make better decisions for my family. That's what I started wanting to do for women. Men too, but I resonate as a woman. How I knew how to walk through the world and to share that with help them.
And certainly the better decisions you make for yourself and your family, the better you can help others make decisions, obviously. So starting off, let's help people get to know you a little bit. How did you find your way, find your way into chiropractic. Let's start with that.
Sure. I actually answered an ad in Ontario, in Ottawa, Ontario. I was between schools. I didn't know what I wanted to do quite yet. I had already taken, education and done all that. But it wasn't my place. I didn't know where I wanted to go. So I answered this ad, Dr. Ken Brough in Ottawa, and he took me on, and I was just enthralled by the whole what's going on around here. I remember there was a lady, Madame Leduc, and she's long passed, but she kind of walked in all like there's no reason I should have said to her, "You're going to walk through the door and do me a little dance one day." And it was just the hope she needed to actually do that. Not long time down the road, just the next week she walked in and did a little dance. And I thought, what the heck's going on here? So I was a professional cheerleader out there too, and kicking with one leg all the time, he changed my body. He made it so that I could still dance on days where, an inner thigh injury in that profession is like a 3-month injury. And he had me fixed that day. So yeah, I was just intrigued and I loved it.
Well, and thus you found your way into going to chiropractic school somewhere along that.
Yeah, I did. One day we were just he was a great teacher for implementation of things in the office. So I really learned a lot from him. But one of the things he did was celebrate with me every, once in a while. He'd take me out for lunch, and we'd discuss chiropractic and what to do with the office and all that stuff. He was a terrific teacher. But I was so nervous because I had all the Palmer papers because I'd already applied. I wasn't sure how to tell him, and the lunch purpose for him was to let me know that I should probably be a chiropractor one day. And so it was perfect.
Well, there you go, and that's amazing. Now, we started talking before we went on, started recording. We started talking a little bit about how you develop this system, and I'm fascinated. I went through some of the highlights of your book, the envelope system, and I'm fascinated by it. Let's start with how you found your way into this process of developing the system that led to a book.
Yeah, so when I was actually, when I was at university before Palmer, and then when I was at Palmer again, I got, anyways, as a Canadian in the States, I got a certain amount of money, so I would put it in an envelope. And there's actually a guy now it's Dave Ramsey. He does this envelope system. I mean, it's phenomenal. I wasn't aware of him yet. It just made sense to me. And so a couple of times in my life, I kind of felt like I wasn't going to, like I was going to die. And I have some terrific stories about times when I nearly did. But once I had my children, I knew that there were things about me that I could never maybe even know about my own parents that I would want them to know about me. And so I started writing them in a journal. And then a couple of years ago, my friend found out he was terminally ill, and I just needed a way for him to connect with his daughter. That's, for everything, watching the women walk through with their babies who they wanted to do the best for and just couldn't make these decisions. They didn't have I think they had the power, but not the clarity, right? They didn't know they had permission to make these decisions and listen to their little voice. And so when I saw my friend was dying, I knew he needed to talk to his daughter about stuff like, when you think you found the one, what are the questions we should be asking? How do you find the best job for you? How do you maneuver your life a little bit better? What are your best times? Your favorite color? She's never going to know him in these ways because she was 14 when he was diagnosed, maybe 13, 14. And so she would not have the wisdom to ask him questions. But there's a gal in the book that's at the beginning of each chapter. She did lose her dad when she was 8. And for the rest of her life, you'll read that she uses it kind of like an excuse very often. Like, I couldn't find a good man when I was young because I didn't know how to do that because my dad had gone. Like, we use these things as, I guess what it is really, we all look out our two fresh eyes, and whatever experiences we have in our life are what contribute to what we see. And so what she would see with her dad having died, would be a completely different vision as if they had had this nurturing, beautiful relationship where she felt loved and honored by the most important man in her life. And so, I went on a retreat weekend, and just started writing about things I want to know about. And then I realized men speak very differently than women. This 5 Love Languages, I don't know if you've ever read that.
Yes.
But just a phenomenal book. It changed our marriage because we realized we're completely the opposite. So how do we nurture each other in that way? And then, of course, we have kids, and then we learn to do it with our children, too. So I got to put all that stuff together in a way that my friend could let himself be known to his daughter, even though he's gone now. So it was quite the journey. It was just a weekend where I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I just kept on writing, and I think it was God-inspired. I mean, that's how it works for me. But then I had a male coach, and he was talking about his teenage daughter who, they just couldn't connect. He had her every other weekend. And some of the techniques, the simple techniques in this book, helped him to connect with his daughter on this deeper level that he had always wanted to, but hadn't quite figured out how to do since there's a distance.
Well, and you just touched an important question that I want to ask. Is this concept important or good or effective for someone who's not in a life-threatening situation or dying or looking at that and, facing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that question a lot, and it's something that helps us connect on a deeper level with whoever's in the room or whoever we're communicating with. There's so much, you've probably heard the talk of super fans these days. I was just reading I got his book right here. I was reading Pradeep Sangha. I was reading his book, about superfans, because it's not only important for somebody who's not dying, but it's important for people in business, because we're constantly in marketing, this is for our chiropractic offices or whatever we have. We're being asked to define ourselves, like what's special about your office? What do you do that nobody else does? And it's not, we can't define ourselves by technique anymore, because it doesn't, ultimately matter. People just want to be helped and healed.
Right.
When I graduated about 20 years ago, there was this huge movement of people that didn't want to talk about pain. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, this isn't a place to get into philosophy of that, but people want you to connect where they are. Mm-hmm. And so in the idea of superfans of this book, we all want to feel important, like somebody sees us, and especially if it's somebody that it's a loved one. So be it our parent or be it just our staff members or the people that walk in our door trusting us to help them heal their life. When we know these simple little questions to ask that can then lead us towards talking more about chiropractic and what we have to offer, that's what we have to offer. A piece of us that nobody else is doing. And chiropractors have always done that so well.
And one of the things that I don't always do, we all have the things that we want to do, and we don't always do. We try to uplift them. One of the things that is a lesson that I learned was when there are things that you think, if I was dying or if I was in a bad situation, I would do this. Maybe I would eat this way, or I'd do something different for my health, or I'd have that conversation that I haven't had that I meant to have, that you flip that around and say, well, why did you have to be in that situation to do it? Why not live your life that way now and make those changes while you can impact yourself more positively? And this is a great example of that, to enrich those relationships, long before you're even facing those scenarios, right? And especially in our time where people's lives are so sped up with so much, of this stuff, and that we have so much less real connection going on in our culture, that this is something that we can really make sure we create those magic moments with our people that we're close to. Now, we've been talking a lot about people we're close to. What about applications for business?
Yeah, so that was it all fits together, because when we're face to face with someone, we can read these, little telltale signs. When somebody's checking out, we kind of know that. And as chiropractors, we very often are very well versed in that, because there's so much information coming to our new clients that we can see they kind of gloss over sometimes. But when we can find this way to just simply, with a couple of words, reach that person in their life and help it apply to them. Because see, it's not about us. Thank you for asking that question, because it helps me clarify something. So it's not that we have something more to offer. Everybody has this. It's that when we can ask the questions of that client that help them open up about their life, nobody's asking about them. Nobody's saying, I care about you. What will you do if you don't have this pain anymore? Nobody's asking them those questions, and they're not thinking about it, because all they're thinking about is, I hate this pain, I want to get out of it. Or I don't like this dysfunction, or whatever it is they come in for. So So if we can connect them with them in a way that helps them see themselves, that's the gift right there. But the better part, too, is, as chiropractors, we know this the best. Nobody wants to pay for health. They want to pay when they're in sick. It's very hard. It's very hard for our humans who are hardwired in our subconscious mind to seek the pain and get away from the pain, to teach them that maybe you don't need to be there in the first place. I mean, it's one of those things we're always dealing with, which we always want the people who are healthy so we can keep them that way. But that's not always the reality. So when you look at that, that whole thing of health and looking towards the future, it's true what you said. We never know when we're going to die. We could walk off this show right now and it could be over. It's just it's something that when I first wrote the book, I found myself talking with a lot of people who are actually terminally ill, and it was a little bit weird for me because we don't tend to talk about that stuff a lot. But it's not about whether you die or not; it's how you're going to live, right? I mean, we were talking about how we have teenagers now, and we just had an event that, we don't see them for these special times anymore because they're gone with friends. And And so what do we really want for them? Not if we knew this stuff when they were 3 and we wanted them to have a certain kind of integrity and a work ethic and to not steal. What I was talking to a mom, and she was like, "Oh, God gave me such a gift. There was something left in my, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it, is when you're shopping, the shopping cart." So she left something in the shopping cart and got it to her car, realized she hadn't paid for it. She's like, "Oh, it's a gift from God." I'm like, "Well, maybe, but maybe that's stealing." Maybe if we have this thing that we want to think about, what we want our children to do, it helps us walk in a different way. If we want our kids to be healthy and go for walks and use their body, then we better not be on the computer watching TV all night. We better actually going for walks and bike rides with them.
Right.
And so that's what the book really helped. If my friend hadn't died, he would have still had this plan for, okay, so now I know what I want for her life. And now I know how to deconstruct that. That's a coaching thing. We decide what we want, and then we decide where we are, and what's the bridge between those two things? How do we create that in our life?
Right. So important. Now, let's give some tips of the system. So for people that are listening and maybe they haven't moved over to grab this book or they're going to later, what are some strategies you can impart to them to get started?
Right. So the planning part, I think, is the most critical part about this book. It's deciding what you really want and then deciding how you're going to get there. So whether it's your patients and their care, your staff, yourself and how you walk in your office and how people are receiving you. So all the things about business work with this. All the things in your family too. Maybe you have some relationships that are just, they're not quite what you wanted them to be, and maybe they won't be because there's always 2 people at least involved, right? But if we know where we're headed, then we can make a different decision about when we talk to that person. Mm-hmm. Whether we reach out. I have a couple of people in my close circle that are difficult to talk with, so I'll text them. I want them to know that I'm there and I'm thinking about them, but sometimes a conversation is too hard. And it rattles me for a little while. So just finding ways that you can still say I love you and I'm here with these gentle touches.
Yes, absolutely. And that brings me something that I want to ask you. Do you find with this and that there's a difference of typing this versus putting pen to paper?
That's a great question. Most definitely. I wish I thought about this before I would have researched the numbers, but it's crazy. It's like, somebody's going to correct me on this, but it's like multiple thousands of more neurons are connecting when we write, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to hundreds when we type. And because this is so ingrained in our subconscious, when you write this, it's like journaling. Because what I encourage people to do is choose a topic and you write about it. And so when they write about that, it's cathartic. I mean, it's healing, it's purpose finding, it's all those good things. And whether it's for the office or for your family or for yourself, maybe you just need a story told that you're never going to really be able to. You feel like you'll never be able to disclose that if you write it down and it's real and it's concrete.
Right, and I think people do so much less pen to paper that it will even amplify it more because it's something that's so outside their norm. Unfortunately these days, and is so powerful. Now, you also said to me your favorite quote was, "Try to be the rainbow in someone's cloud."
Sure.
Can you connect that to some of this?
Yes, I absolutely can. So Maya Angelou is one of my absolute favorite mentors. She spoke at Lyceum Hall, actually, about 16 years ago, and I went to see her there. I could hardly understand what she was saying. She's so deep and so beautiful in her words, but she has all kinds of quotes that really help us to redefine our humanity. And so, maybe we don't have, I just want to breathe my right words into this. Sometimes people need something that we don't have to offer, and sometimes we have something to offer that we didn't know they need. But if we go into all of our situations, assuming that we're at the right place at the right time, because that's kind of how I believe about the world and how God is in our life, that means that we can shine as bright stars even in the worst moments. Because sometimes when we connect with the truth of our life, the dads and the moms that I've worked with the envelope system, doing some coaching and stuff with them, sometimes it's sharing the most difficult moments because you can't tell your teenagers right now what to do, right? It's really hard. Nobody they want to find their own way, and they do have their own way. So being a rainbow in someone's cloud is just knowing that no matter how you show up, do your best because whatever comes out is the way it's supposed to be.
And that's said differently, one of my favorite sayings, but really emphasizes the same point, which is that life, is not about waiting for the storm to stop or the rain to stop, but learning how to dance in the rain. And this could be part of that as you have things going on in your life so you can get to that rainbow in there. Man, so much to ask you. The other thing I want to ask was you do also private women's groups and trainings and have a social media group for that. Can you share a little bit about those?
Yeah, so way back when I was talking about being early in practice and noticing these ladies who were so intelligent and absolutely capable of making good decisions, but really flustered by what was going on with their child. There was one mom in particular, I remember. She had 3 kids with her, and she was saying, we're going to go to such and such fast food restaurant if you guys are really good. And I thought, I got to help these moms because all the kids were kind of ashen and gray, and she was just doing the best she could. So 2 things were learned in that situation, which was I can't judge her. She's doing the best she can. If women are not men, and I know I've had conversations with men about this, if we kind of lay down the law and be like, this is what's going on, blah, 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 and fix that, she retreats and we're more gatherers. We kind of ask 15 people about something, and then we put it together and we call it our own. Whereas a guy, you guys just ask your guy and you get the answer and you go with it. So it makes relationships, a challenge. So I wanted to be able to speak in the lives of women in a way that I love my husband. He's like phenomenal. I chose a really great guy. So how do you do that in a way that's not like, hey, lucky me, I'm so special, So we have to have real conversations about the days that I don't like him too much. Right. And when it's hard in parenting, but not to stay there. So I opened a group that's exclusively women, and there's a free group that I can share later on. It's called Femelle because with my last name being Lyons, we've always been interested in this whole lion, lioness dynamic. And the lioness is exactly what these powerful, amazing women do. This great man is our protector, and he walks around and he takes care of business. But we do the hunting and the gathering, and we rear the children, and we do that with them around. And it's kind of like just true to life. It's fantastic. And so I called them Femelle because of my French and English upbringing. And femelle means animal, female animal. Mm-hmm. And we've got to be animals sometimes and just really be fierce about our families and our lives. So that's what we do in that group. We've got a free one, and then I've got this fantastic membership I just started, which right now is women. We're going to be opening it up to men and families later on. But that's when my husband can kind of walk through a couple of things he's doing. But for now, it's the women, and we get to have conversations that help us make stronger decisions, actually knowing what that plan is for us, because very often we're told what to do all our life, and so we do that thing, and then we realize one day, how did I get here? Why am I here? I don't actually want to be here. What do I do with that? Like, what do I do now? So.
And I love that phrase of living life fiercely. That's and we have to, because people get complacent, they get stuck in mediocrity, they get stuck in autopilot, and in so many ways, and our patients do too. Obviously, I mean, this is culturally in the U.S. Pandemic right now. So helping people enrich that to a more energized state where is so important, and help people not be in that autopilot, because you miss stuff, and every moment you miss is one you don't get back. So
and that is exactly what I talk about in the book. Right now, reading this or being here now, we have that gift of time. Some people don't have that anymore, and when we can develop stronger relationships because we feel that power in ourselves, then, I mean, it changed my life when I started realizing this stuff in my marriage as well as with my clients. But I mostly see women because of the babies coming in. But it just changed everything, because when I have a clear message about what I want to create in my life, I can communicate that better, and it's far less frustrating for the people who are trying to communicate with me. And so I didn't have that down before. In fact, it's still a challenge sometimes. So all of this stuff kind of goes together in helping the world, I guess, is my bigger mission, to make better decisions so that we can have these things that we dream about, because I think that if they're in our mind, then it's to be achieved. And
now,
how do we do that?
And that's so often people have things in their mind and they don't have them get out other than in their mind, you know?
Yeah.
So people often say the biggest library is the graveyard because there's all kinds of books that haven't been written.
Good, yes. It's so true.
So now with that, let's give some nuts and bolts on this. So people, you likened it to journaling, but you're actually going to not keep this in a book. You're going to give it to someone. So you're giving them as they write them. Do you write them to give it to them at a certain time? Give some process on this.
Yeah, so I'm not expecting to die anytime soon, but I have a little box. It's a fancy box I got at a store. It actually is supposed to hold pictures, right? And I just kind of write letters. I've got one for each each person in my family. Well, actually, I've got one for my husband, my two children, and I've got one in my will with the letters that go to my extended family. So what it is, I do it a couple of different ways. My favorite way is to look through magazines, kind of like vision boarding. So I had a really beautiful, nursing picture, for example. And so I just kind of looked at that, and I thought, I have nursing pictures of when I was nursing the kids. So I got a picture made. Actually, I pulled out a picture, and I just wrote about what it was like to nurse my children. And I told them what it was like for me to nurse them. And then I could add the health benefits because I knew about all that stuff. And so I've got on the envelope, when you're nursing your children. Or I actually probably will write, if they're having trouble, read these type of things. Because this is the stuff that will connect you to your body and help, if they're having trouble conceiving, can help the body move in a different way, right? Mm-hmm. With this goal in mind, this plan. So I've got different letters for different things. Sometimes it's just things that pop in my mind. In the book it has several lists, depending on the age group of your child. One of the saddest things I ever heard was a medical doctor who was dying, and he had a newborn baby, and the interviewer was saying, I can't even remember why he was being interviewed, and I wish I could, but the interviewer was saying, well, are you going to write her the birthday cards, and what are you going to do for her? And she's like, she doesn't know who I am, so I don't think any of that matters. And I felt myself barely being able to catch my breath, because that baby does need to know that man. So it's different sections of what your child's life is. If you believe you're going to die and your child's a newborn, then in the book, Tanya shares she wished that her dad was with her when she went to middle school because her mom couldn't help her figure out the lock. Dad, you've been with me, you would have known how to do that like that. Maybe he wouldn't have, but her fantasy and her way she's created that is that he would have. And so all these little pieces of our life, we can put them together in a way that is there for our children when they need it. And with teenagers, right now, if we have teenagers or above, they don't necessarily want us to just breathe into our life. They don't want our suggestions and our advice. But if we, like my friend who was the first person I realized this is good for everybody, the guy I was coaching, he just gave her a letter about how he feels about her and how much he loves her. And that opened the door for them. And we gave them some eye-to-eye tools. It was part of the coaching I did with them. But if we can write a simple non-judgmental letter that says, hey, babe, so I love you so much. And let's, for example, say that the kids are starting to hang out with somebody you don't like. If we say that, you know that they're going to be hanging out with them all day long. And it works. People do that. But if we write them a letter saying, I remember this kid that I used to hang out with, and tell them a story about you, not with anything about, I hope you never see that person again, but just your life experience, then your child not only gets to learn from that story that you tell, but they have it forever, and you get to speak into their life in a way that wasn't intrusive or offensive. It's just about you. It's just your story. But hopefully they'll hear what you're trying to say in it. So it teaches us to have non-judgmental communication with people that we love.
and in a written format, putting pen to paper, and
Exactly.
so that they actually have to take the time to read it. It's not a text.
Nope. Nope.
And has incredible, impactful meaning. Can you share, since you work with a lot of people and a lot of people have read your book, can you share anything about people's experience, like a story or a person's experience that like really touched you when they utilize this, either in a relationship or in business?
Yeah, so I get all kinds of amazing mail about this thing because it's something that people discard. They think, oh, this relationship is gone. There's nothing I can do with it. One of my favorite gentlemen, I do a lot of coaching on the side too, just because especially when we're like looking at the end of our life, when it's kind of right there in front of us, a lot of stuff starts to come together and also fall apart. So one of these gentlemen, he was an older guy, actually in the Army, and so he was kind of this guy. But he had twins and 2 other children, and he hadn't talked with one of the twins for like 13 years and his daughter for 16. So a long time, but knew he was actually dying. So I got to just breathe new life into the thought process of what he could really create for his family. And he didn't want to necessarily communicate with them before he died. He was too nervous about that, which is so, in some ways tender and sad. But he wrote them letters about how much he loves them and he thought about them and the things that he's done throughout the years in honor of them. And so while that doesn't feel like a success story because they didn't get to reconnect, which a lot of people do, that's one of my favorite stories because he was able to, this is how I coach. I can't tell you what the best ideas are. That was my problem being a doctor. Sometimes they want the answers from us, and sometimes we don't have them because it needs to be their way, And we need to ask the right questions that lead them to their best result. And that's what this man did. He found his own way, and that is the most beautiful thing to me, that we can do it in a different way and it can be right,
I absolutely love it. So another thing to help our audience learn who, may listen to this or watch this in a number of different matters, is how important are they? How are they important? A lot of people kind of feel like they're just, another person in masses and they don't matter as much. How can they get in touch with increasing their impact to the people that are closest to them?
I love that question because when I was researching for the book, I was absolutely shocked. I've always wanted a closer relationship with my own father, but the generations are different. I'm nearly 50, so his generation didn't connect on this level, not usually anyway. And so I've never been able to achieve that with him. And so to hear so many men in my research say, she's going to be fine, she's got her mom, or she doesn't really listen to me anyway, so what's the point? It's just like this give up. And I thought, shit, no, we don't give up on them. We need our parents, we need our siblings. We're all here together in this pod of life, whether it's your best friend or your neighbor. You know that if you were to die today, this is the best way to think about it, actually. If I died today, who is going to be at my funeral? Who's going to think about me and miss me? Because those are the people we should be communicating with in these letters or right now. And the letters can be used presently, like what I suggest with your teenagers, or you can write on the top of it, like when you turn 25, read this. And it can be all about your life when you turn 25, these things that changed your life. But I talked myself out of the question. Can you repeat the question?
Basically, how people remember, like, are they really important?
Yes.
Right? With everybody they interact with, right?
So there are all those different components of people not feeling like they're good enough or necessary, but I promise you are. If you're thinking about a person, you're necessary. And so then how do we maneuver in these difficult relationships, or just the ones that we really want to keep and have be cool? And this is just a really simple way. I've got a whole book of this stuff for my kids, but you don't have to do that. It could be just one. Here's something really special I can add. when I surveyed the women and said, what would you most like? And I asked about the dad. It works for the moms and male children or girls, doesn't matter. But because the book was for the dad, for his daughter, I asked the daughters at all age groups, up to 90, okay? Little kids to 90. I asked women what they really wanted to know from their dad. And two things came up. Can I share them?
Yeah, please.
One was, are you proud of me? That was number one. And with like 2 or 3 less women saying it, it was, I love you. And I've got a great story about that. The woman, the wife of the guy that I wrote the book for, she ran upstairs when I went to present the book at first. Cause I was very nervous about it because you never know how somebody's going to react when you inserted yourself into their most trying times. I mean, her husband was dying. And she went crying, running up the stairs, and I thought I deeply offended them. And she came running down the stairs with a framed napkin that was, her father and her have a fantastic relationship. But years ago, he wrote I love you when they were at a restaurant together, and the woman framed it beside her bed that sits there now. And so when we think we're not impactful or important, and worse off, if you think you have a good relationship with your kids and that you got it nailed, you know, it's good. Mm-hmm. Believe me, your children still want to know those things.
Right.
They still want to know that you're proud of them. They still want to know you love them. And if you have it in writing, you know, generations will pass on war letters for generation to generation because it was I love you letters. It was the moments of connection that we all want to feel important and loved. And when you read those things, even if it wasn't to you, you're like, you feel a little warmer inside. You feel more connected.
Yes. So, and you know what? That's part of making a family unit more impactful, more enriched. And again, the better you have all of that in your family, with your team, the better you're going to be able to serve people. So many people as healing arts practitioners, especially chiropractors, have so many holes in their lives in these areas and don't necessarily realize it because they're so focused on numbers or money or all the stuff that is also important, but that foundation gets missed, and then you lose some of the meaning of why you're doing everything.
I agree. And I love talking with entrepreneurs. And whether a chiropractor is an entrepreneur or whether they work for another chiropractor, the hours for chiropractic are strange. And very often, you know, most people come home at 4 and have that 3 or 4 hours with their family. Very often, chiropractors come home at 6:37 or later. And we miss in those moments where all the decompression happens. And so whenever we can find a way that helps us, just say we might not be there presently, but we are there always for you. Right. I think it's a win. And to help our kids, because too many kids, chiropractic kids, are not becoming chiropractors. And it's because they see this lifestyle that they're like, I don't want to work that long. I don't want to do that. They don't understand necessarily the passion that we hold in it. But if we can connect with them on a level that says, I work super hard and I help people heal every single day when I'm at work, and that's what I'm doing when you don't see me. So maybe you don't really understand that, but when I come home, I do that for you too. Mm-hmm. That's impactful. Yes.
So as we'll be wrapping up here, one, in our show notes, I'm going to have the link to your website, brooklyons.com, and to the Amazon order for your book and to your Facebook group so people can find you, and also so people don't listen to this and try to write while they're driving. If they're listening, they can get it later. We don't want to cause any subluxations. But before then, are there any parting words or things that you want to make sure our audience gets from you that you want to give them before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think I really want to make sure everybody understands that today you have this gift of time. And whether you're dying or whether you plan to live another 80 years, there are simple ways to connect. And this book will really help you see the ways. In fact, it'll really help you heal past relationships as well. And it's a very simple caveman written book. But I'd also, if you don't mind, love to offer something to your viewers. And I have a couple of things written out that help you kind of go through those 2 letters, the I love you letter and the I'm so proud of you letter, and just kind of in a sketch way, write down what you want them to know. And
excellent.
Yeah, it'll walk them through how to do that. We're not all authors. We don't all want to write a big, long prose, but maybe just a couple of bullet points are all you have to do. And,
Excellent.
Definitely got to do a bunch of viewers in that.
All right, great. And we can put the link to that in the blog post with this, the show notes, yes?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it that way. That's excellent. That's excellent. So people can have that. And they can just click on it and we'll put that through there. That's wonderful. That'll be perfect. People will get it that way. And so people start this, they start writing, write those first 2 letters. Now, last thing I want to ask, how do they decide to give it? Like you say, you got a nice photo box, and I can picture that. Well, no pun intended. But but you got one of those photo boxes. How do you decide when you're going to give those, or do you just when do you do that?
Yeah, well, there's a number of ways, and I guess it depends on your situation. If you're having trouble with it, contact me because I'm happy to share that stuff. So there's some letters that I've shared with my kids right now. They're just pertinent life stories that I see them walking along the path, and I thought, I'll share some of my life experience. I called it a mistake at the time, but it is what it is. I had given my daughter the envelopes that were for the rest of her life, and I mean, I'm conscious of this. This is what I do, and I'm purposely didn't practice like I thought I would, so that I would be there to stand up and walk to the door to greet my children. I'm really into this stuff, but yet she opened her mouth. She devoured every single one. So that's totally fine because now she knows what the content is. So when she is holding her baby for the first time, she has the letter of what that was like for me and how much I hope that she'll have that experience. All of these touching moments that I hope to be there for, but I've got the plan in my mind for what that's going to look like, and hopefully I get to live that. But if I don't, then she gets to open them later on. So this is the other beauty. When I was talking about this gentleman doing it in the way that works best for him, you'll give the letters now. They're Christmas presents for us. Now we all write letters to each other for Christmas of just like what the last years looked like or what we fantasize about. We pick a topic and we kind of go from there. And so it has become a book. I was speaking to a chiropractic conference in Switzerland, actually, and one of the men bought the book and said he's signing his name on it and all the men in his family, and it's going to get passed on line to line, which is so cool. But they're going to use it as an idea book. So I've got the book right here. And so he's just going to do this and be like, okay, that's not a book of questions. So this is all questions you get to ask your family. And so my moral compass, right from wrong. So they're all going to just pick that and talk about it. So it's an idea book as much as it is a letter right now book. So do them now, do them later. It doesn't matter.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that out of your busy schedule took time to share with our audience and how this is going to be so wonderful for people, and I really hope people follow through and grab your book. How is best for people to connect with you?
Yeah. I think we'll give my website on the information, so that's great. Right there it has a Connect With Me link that you can email me. It's drbrookhlyons.com, so it's real simple. As long as you get my weird Brookh name spelled right. But they can just contact me. Email is probably the best way.
Yes, and if people just listen to this, I'll mention this right now so they can find all that. It's www.drbrookhlyons. That's the weird Brookh name, but I love it. Brookh Lyons, drbrookhlyons.com. But again, that will be right in the show notes. You'll be able to click it live. So thank you so much for joining us on the Mile High Podcast. I look forward to hearing what people gain from this episode and gain from connecting with you more. And as it enriches their lives, because I think that's what this material is. It's something to enrich your life. And I look forward to seeing everybody at our Mile High event, August 16th to 19th. So, as I said, clear your calendar if you know where to. Best place to be in August is Colorado, a mile up. And we look forward to see you there at www.milehighchiro.org is where you can register, and we'll be announcing our speakers and events soon, but we already have a ton of people registered. And never miss a podcast, because we are providing incredible content information to help you, live the fullest life as a doctor of chiropractic or chiropractic student or chiropractic team member. So thank you, Dr. Brookh.
Thank you very much for having me. What an honor. So fun.
So fun. And thank you all for joining us, and we will keep recommend again, keep changing lives and saving lives and impacting lives in your community. Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.